There's something genuinely impressive about how America can take a British masterpiece and just remove every single thing that made it funny, and we need to talk about it. The British shows we've all come to love are built around awkwardness, relatable experiences, and just characters that you're not meant to like. And American remakes just try to fix what they see is broken. One of the most renowned British shows is The Inbetweeners. The show built on cringe, crudeness, the flaws we see in our friend groups, and just experiences that you can relate to. Vomiting on a child? Tick. Nonce teacher? Name a skill you didn't have on. Hitting a disabled person in the face with a frisbee? Don't sit there and act like you haven't done it. The beauty of the UK Inbetweeners is that we get to see a very real life representation of a British secondary school, where everyone can be grim, awkward, and at times genuinely awful. But the American version just doesn't have that. Take for example this scene in the UK version. The boys are all looking at the alcohol Will bought, and Neil asks,
what's a liqueur?
And Jay responds with,
It's what benders drink.
Before Simon and Jay start casually implying that that's what Neil's dad drinks. From there it spirals as Simon and Jay start talking about all the things that Neil's dad does and start hinting that he might be gay. Not because it's clever, but it's just how teenagers act. It feels real and that's what makes it funny. Now compared to the US version, there's no build up to the joke, no natural flow or casual conversation. Neil walks in and says, and I quote, "My dad brang me new pants."
My dad brang me new pants.
Which is funny because he said brang. It's not grammatically correct. What's he like? Jay responds by saying he's surprised that anything can fit in his dad's closet beside himself. Simon then makes a comment about gardening, as if that's to do with anything, when suddenly Neil snaps and shouts that his dad's not gay.
My dad is not gay!
Both scenes are making the same joke, but they're acted differently. In the UK clip, the joke is naturally built into the conversation without being forced, and it genuinely feels like you're watching a reality TV show. But in the US clip, it just appears. Without any build-up, it's just an unrelated joke, spawned from nowhere, that's then immediately abandoned and only seen as funny because of its randomness. There's no point in the joke being there except for a quick laugh. That's the real issue with the American remakes. They don't trust the awkwardness and rush straight to the punchline without a good setup. What's worse is that the joke just goes nowhere. Everyone in the cafeteria stares and then that's it. Not just for the rest of the episode, but for the rest of the series too. Leaving no consequence, no continuation, and just no point. But sometimes it's not about the timing or the structure. Which brings me on to point number 2. It's the cultural difference. A good example of this is BBC Ghosts. The humour in Ghosts comes from the differences in characters and the unlikely friendships. Because in what world would a caveman from 10,000 BC and a corrupt politician from the 1990s ever be best friends? Now, Ghosts is a show that I genuinely hold dear to my heart, so I have strong opinions on this. And when I saw the American version, I'm not even exaggerating, I lost about 10 years off my life. And when I actually watched the American version, I realised why it didn't work. It's not the concept that's the problem. Commune ed, but it's the history, or lack thereof. In the UK version, the oldest ghost was from 10,000 BCE. But in the US version, the oldest ghost was only from 1007 AD. That means that the oldest UK ghost is nearly 10,000 years older than the oldest US one. Top 10 maths, by the way. In that time genuinely matters. In the UK version, the personalities clash because the ghosts are spread out across thousands of years of British history. But in the US one, we just don't get that because America hasn't been around enough to get that depth of history. So instead, the personality clashes we get in the US version mostly come from people who are from roughly the same time periods, but are just from different social classes or lines of work. Don't get me wrong, the show does have other differences between the characters, since there is a big gap between 1007 AD and the 2000s. But the majority of the characters are condensed into roughly the same century, instead of being scattered across multiple ones, which leaves no real contrast between the characters, and the original idea of the show is just lost, making it just a version of Friends if all the characters had died gruesomely. Now, I know I've been sat here slagging off the American versions for about, I don't know, I don't have a watch on. But there are a few remakes that are widely considered as the better version. A key example of this is The Office. Both versions follow the idea of awkward office life, cringe humour and uncomfortable interactions. And this is one of the times where we see the American version keep the awkwardness, timings and personalities. The US version keeps the essence of the UK show, but just adds heart and warmth. So really the lesson here is that you shouldn't need to change everything. You just need to trust the awkwardness and just let the humour breathe. At the end of the day, American remakes aren't evil. Well, they just forget what makes the original special. Whether it's awkward timing or cultural history, the UK versions just have a certain magic that just can't be rushed or simplified. So next time someone tells you to watch the remake, maybe just stick with the original and appreciate the awkward mess that just made it brilliant in the first place. Anyway, that's it for today. Tell me what other British shows you think the Americans ruined in the comments and I'll probably cry with you. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in another one. Bye!